I'm frozen. I'm frozen. I even see I'm frozen. What is happening?
You are frozen on my screen.
You know why? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
I'll tell you why. It's because I went to grab another clip really fast. I bet that's what happened. Should I exit and come back or what?
Sure, I'll hold it down
All right,
for us.
hold it down. Grab a shot, everybody.
Let's
I'll be
do
right back.
this. Where'd Lila go? I don't know if she's here. Let's see the comments. Oh, that's this big zoom on me. Comments. Liberia. Yeah, Liberia. Not sure.
Hey, there we go. I'm back. Sorry about that. Hello. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod. Oh my goodness. That was crazy. Hi, everybody.
Help me out here. What's Liberia mean?
Freedom? I don't know.
Freedom. Okay.
Hi, Arif. Hi,
Anyway,
the runs.
moving on.
Ben Macarius.
Contact your fist in an upwards direction. That could be taken as
contact with Daniel, Brandy. Hello to everybody. Wow, that was a horrible beginning. That might be my all-time worst start of a show.
No,
I'm so sorry. All of a sudden, I was like, "Wait, there's a clip that I really need," and we might not even get to it. But I think that that put me in lag time as I was uploading video, and yeah. Hi, how's everybody doing? Pat, how was your week?
Oh, you always ask me that. This week I do electrical work, and I was in attics a lot and on top of tall ladders a lot, which are my two least favorite parts of the job. Other than that, I love the job.
Yeah, the attics. Did you see any rats?
Nice. Not this time. There's a lot of spiders, but I am not afraid of spiders in the least. So that
I'm not either. I'm not.
The thing about attics, attics are usually like, add 40 degrees to whatever it is outside, and that's how hot attics are. And then the other thing is short attics, the roofers just nail the roof shingles right into the so there's like long nails in most attics, like 2 inches from the top. So you got to watch your head, or you get
like a horror movie.
I got some marks on my head from
attics, no, that's horrible. And then I imagine the air. Are you wearing a mask up there?
An N95, that kind of thing, which does help a little bit, but
it helps. But it's confining. It makes you hotter, I think, right?
A little bit. It's just the dust and the heat that kind of gets you up there. But anyway, not a big deal. But yeah, and I'm a pretty brave individual, I like to think, but I'm such a wuss when it comes to heights. So like ladders, I'm good with 1-story ladders. I'm good at almost 2 stories. But when you get over 2 stories, I'm like, somebody else needs to do this job. I quit.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to be like, oh, I'm brave. I'm fine with ladders, but I've never been on a 2-story ladder, so I guess I have no idea. That's crazy. Ben Arrington says he's in attics and crawl spaces all day hunting mice and spiders. I feel your pain. That sounds like a major nightmare for me.
Yeah, you should come and I'll send you in first, and you can.
Oh God. Yeah, I can't do. I can do roaches. I can do amphibians. I can do spiders. Whatever. I just cannot do the rodents.
Well, I used to actually have a real spider. I hated spiders.
Yeah.
And then 2 things happened. One, I had a girlfriend who had a tarantula.
Okay.
Got out of its cage a bunch. Like I reached in and grabbed it accidentally. I think it was my own wallet and my shoe.
Oh God.
So that was one. And then I lived in a place that had in Tahoe up in the snow country that had terrible insulation. So in the middle of the night, I woke up so many times with an actual spider in my bed with me.
Yeah.
And just the freak out moments of like, what is that? And you're waking up slowly. And it turns out it's like a big old spider. So you would think that would freak you out more, but it just sort of desensitized me to it because
like fear factor, like your best buddy, Joe Rogan.
Yeah. Rogan.
Fear factor.
Anyway.
Yeah. I guess
how was your week? What's going on?
I need shock therapy for rodents probably, because I can deal with all of that, but rodents I can't. And I think I might have a heart attack, but maybe it would work exactly what you're saying. Rodents and sharks I can't do. My week, Pat. Thank you for asking. My week sucked ass, and I'll tell you why. My husband went out of town.
Was it the dog?
Yeah, if anybody ever told you that dogs don't shit where they eat, wrong. It can happen. I didn't realize until this morning when I finally got the test results back, she has Giardia. So she's now on medicine. I'm hoping that helps. But it has been an insane week, coupled with the fact that my husband was out of town and I have some weird tendonitis, wearing a boot like a real old person. Like, I think over the course of the year and a half of us doing the show, I've had like thrown my back out. I'm wearing a boot. I guess those are the two things, but they were kind of big. Like, it would take me an hour each morning to clean the cage, the floor. I just threw away blankets and stuff that were in there because I was like, I can't even handle this. Actually,
at some point you're just over it.
It's just awful. Yeah. So that all was bad. I did, however, because we're always talking about COVID protections on this show, and I wear a mask everywhere. I'm getting my 3rd booster tomorrow. Total of 5 shots. Thank you, Pfizer and Moderna. I'm helping support the big pharma industry. But I got a air purifier for the house.
That's smart.
An extra layer of protection.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
Why not? I mean, the Corsi boxes work. They know that. Which are the Corsi boxes are the homemade. And I just found out Corsi, the guy who is, that's named after, came up with this box idea, is from my alma mater, UC Davis. Lives
cool.
Not even that far from me.
Yeah.
He posted recently about being at the airport and being the only one wearing a mask in Sacramento.
Jesus.
Which I can relate to. But anyway, like those boxes work. You can make them for like $75 or so.
Yeah.
And you can put them in all classrooms and save some kids. But instead we're not doing
Why would you do that? It's like $70. Is it worth it? Like,
come
on. All right, we got a lot of stuff to get to this week. Should we what do you think?
We should. Oh, I did want to bring up one thing since you were talking about being old with your knee or your I wasn't listening.
It's my foot, which feels even like older, like your foot. What? Yeah. Okay, tell me.
While I was waiting to come online, I was clicking on Twitter and I read an article about emojis, and they said old people should stop, like the young Gen Zs hate the thumbs up. And I'm like, I literally sent Lilo the thumbs up today like 10 times, and I always thumbs up things.
I do too. Me too. I think also we're not supposed to do like LOL, but I think it's like, I'll just be like lol.
I don't do the lol, but the thumbs up I do all the time. And the Gen Z is correct, because sometimes it's a passive aggressive, like, whatever it is, or, and I think that's how they take it. Like, you didn't want to say anything, so you just slap the thumb up. But it also to me is like, hey, we both are agreeing, like, we don't have to talk about this forever. Like, here's, I got it.
Yeah. Cool beans, totes, all those things that we're not supposed to say or do.
Let's bring back the totes.
All right, let's see what we got on our wheel. Should we?
Yeah, we should.
All right. That went on really long. I feel like I'm glitchy today. Something's going on with me. All right. What do we got? We got Unions Railroaded, Dank Brandon, COVID Glow Up. Look at you with the young speak. Stand for Nothing, and Armageddon. Let's spin the wheel. Unions Railroaded. I said that, right? Okay. You paused. I don't know, Pat. I hope I make it through the show. Yep, and you're muted. Can't hear a thing you're saying.
Oh my
God. It's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be one of
rookie show today.
Start drinking a lot.
I'm gonna spin the wheel. Let's do that.
I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, baby.
Wow.
That's a perfect sound effect actually for this just devastating party I used to call my own, that stands for absolutely nothing. The fact that we are not running away. I don't even know why I shouldn't say we. I'm not part of this party anymore, but that Democrats aren't running away with every election when they are faced with these absolute morons, white supremacists, hypocrites, puppy killers, every other
Yeah.
thing. It's
The
an
right
embarrassment.
the right has made it so easy if the Democrats wanted to win elections.
Yeah.
I mean, even with their lack of accomplishments, if they just tried to actually win the elections by even lying about supporting the right positions, I mean,
Yeah, they won't even do that. They're just going to throw anybody who's slightly to the left of fascist under the bus.
yeah, I mean, this is all they've got. This is the same strategy they've used forever. You know, scare tactics basically. But I
Right.
mean, Social Security, Medicare, reproductive rights are all on the ballot. Well, Social Security, Biden's the one who's wanted to cut Social Security his whole life. Medicare, Biden's currently privatizing Medicare, reproductive rights. They've ran on codifying that for, you know, a decade,
50
two
years.
decades,
Yeah.
50 years. Someone do the math on that. That could be five decades, I think.
5 decades. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. I saw, so Bernie Sanders came out with an editorial in the or opinion piece in the I think the Guardian about how Democrat, and he started with saying, yes, Roe is important, but if that is all Democrats run on and not the economy, there's going to be a real problem for the midterms. And right away, all the cynical, slimy, dishonest players were like, hey, Bernie, Roe v. Wade and abortion, those are economic issues. Like, he hasn't been 100% pro choice his whole career. Like, his Medicare for all wouldn't get rid of the Hyde Amendment and have abortion be protected under. I mean, like, they're just so disgusting. They can't even let him craft the message where he starts off saying it's incredibly important. It's disgusting that Republicans are overturning it, but we have to focus on more than just abortion.
Well, obviously, and the reason behind it, which Democrats understand, it's not that they don't understand this as a party. They're trying to hide that economic interests are the number one turnout for voters all the time, every election. It's the economy stupid is a phrase because every election is the economy stupid. And
Right.
so everything bad in everyone's life gets blamed on the current presidency, which is why the current party usually loses the midterms. It's why it's easy to run against somebody because, you know, everything bad gets pointed towards
Right.
Biden. But, you know, that's why you need to run on accomplishments to change people's situations, not like it's going to get worse. Like it's going to
Yeah.
get worse doesn't get your own base out.
It doesn't, and
Accomplishments do.
especially, his accomplishments, well, are so weak anyway. But like, you promised $2,000 checks if we got Georgia. You got Georgia. You promised a $15 minimum wage. You let the parliamentarian destroy that. You promised, canceling $10,000 of student debt. You're already rolling that back, and it even took you a year and a half to come up with some like piecemeal, means tested, horrible policy that's going to be tons of paperwork that still is going to be rolled back. And I think student loans payments are going to restart in January.
Yeah, which will impact my life dramatically more than forgiving $10,000 of my debt for it.
Exactly.
And most people with graduate loans are in the exact same shoes I am, where look, $10,000, it does help a lot of people with undergrad debt who, you know, maybe had if you have $30,000 in undergrad debt and 10's forgiven, sure, that
Yeah.
but nobody goes to graduate school and has $30,000 of debt, only $30,000 in debt, unless you're already wealthy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's completely unhelpful, and it pisses off just enough people that, like, on both sides of it, right? Like, he should have done more, already rolling back some of it, kind
Right.
of designed to fail,
Yeah,
honestly.
he rolled back the private loan portion,
Right.
which think about if you're one of those people and you
Yeah.
got excited about it.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah, and I
wrong.
think so, as I'm looking around, because right now there so many of the races that we thought were starting to look good for Democrats are actually neck and neck. And it feels like when that happens, it's because, as we know, the people aren't really running on policy anymore. And then, like, so talking about, like, let's say Fetterman, right, running against Oz. Well, we know that the establishment really wanted Connor Lamb, the sort of like Mayor Pete candidate. Fetterman trounced him in the primaries. Then, unfortunately, Fetterman had his stroke, and he's still recovering. And you can tell there are remnants of it. But one of the things about running on policy, and we saw this when Bernie was running and had his heart attack, his surrogates could go out there and very clearly articulate the message that wasn't just about him. It was about all of us and the policies that a majority of this country wanted, right? And I feel the same about what could be the same about Fetterman, even though I don't think he is quite as progressive as I would like him to be. But instead, it kind of devolved into this like Twitter, memes back and forth, and the crudité and the puppy killing and all this kind of stuff that means nothing. So if you're not running on policy, you're running on like personality, and you are a little bit impaired right now as he's recovering from a stroke. Right now, it looks like he and Oz are tied, which is frightening.
It's crazy considering how he was wiping Oz's ass. I mean, he was destroying him.
Yeah.
Until not long ago. It reminds me of who's the guy in not DeSantis, the guy in Florida who backed off supporting Medicare for all down the home stretch.
Oh,
caught up in the hotel stuff and the drug scandal.
Yeah.
And
Gillum.
Yeah. Gillum was going to win that race, and then
he brought Hillary down.
Played it safe. Never
got that
talked
Hillary
about
bump.
Medicare for all.
Yeah.
Right. So why are they doing that? I mean, it's like they want to lose these races or something. It just makes no sense. I mean, part of it is probably Democratic consultants getting in their own ears, but in Fetterman's case, he's not getting Democratic consultant support. Democratic Party doesn't want him to win, which is why they're actively hurting him, which is why MSNBC and these other mainstream medias are hurting him. They don't want a progressive to win. And we can have disagreements on Fetterman. He's problematic in some areas too. But the establishment definitely doesn't want Fetterman. That's kind of undeniable because they're highlighting all of his stroke issues. They don't have to be highlighting that. They can be, if they are truly like, even if you're MSNBC, your whole narrative is like, yeah, we're leftish, we're here for leftists. Like
lean forward,
leftist support channel.
Yeah.
We're not actually the news.
Yeah. And instead they hire like the George W. Bush speechwriters like Nicole Wallace, who we have this clip where she's basically trying to sabotage Fetterman with anecdotal, evidence that he's not that popular anymore. So this is MSNBC, the left-leaning network. Are you putting it on or am I?
I got it right here. Let's do it.
Okay.
As well. And I wonder if you have any concerns if the results of the election will be trusted. And you've got a lot of, I went in and read all the local coverage. You've got a lot of voters telling reporters they plan to vote for you and Oz. Do you think that the results will be trusted and accepted by the citizens of Pennsylvania?
I know I'll trust them and I'll accept the results and the will of the good people of Pennsylvania. I trust the Republican and Democratic clerks who are running our elections in the 67 counties across Pennsylvania. It's true that my opponent has already begun to, cast doubt, as Donald Trump did in the elections before that. But, we can't stop that. I've got a lot of confidence in the Department of State and the Republican and Democratic clerks of elections to do their jobs and to respect the will of the people here in Pennsylvania.
Let me just ask you about all that anecdotal reporting in local and national media. It's really undeniable at this point that there are a lot of voters in Pennsylvania describing themselves this way as ticket splitters. What counsel do you have for Mr. Fetterman to boost? You're running, I think, 11 points ahead of Mastriano, 11, 12 is the average of the polls. His race is much closer. Why do you think that is?
Okay, so there's so many things to say. First, I do want to thank Greg C., cable news sufferer, for clipping that post. He watches cable news, so we don't have to. Thank you. Appreciate him so much. how many times does she talk about unbelievable anecdotal evidence? Like it's kind of,
Well, I was just going to
it's
say the
either,
same thing. She said anecdotal twice, and then she said she set it up with anecdotal, and then she ended with it's undeniable now. So she just built this like, well, you heard it twice from me that it's people in the streets, and then she's like, well, now it's undeniable.
Yeah, it's undeniable. Yeah, they split votes that I hear about anecdotally, which is exactly the opposite of like strong, hard evidence, right? Like that's not dispassionate polling or something. Yeah, and
No,
so
it's wagging the dog. They're shaping the narrative, obviously.
Exactly. And this is the worst case scenario also because Mastrian, so that's Josh Shapiro who's running, and I think he's a pretty like, I don't, not center Democrat, corporate Democrat, whatever, like, yeah, shit-lib guy. But that's a race where the DNC poured in millions of dollars to push and run ads for his supreme right-wing MAGA opponent, Mastriano. Right. And now he is beating him. And so now it's going to be like, look, that's a great tactic that we're using, right?
Yeah, it's the Pied Piper strategy they did that got Trump elected, but now they're doing it and it's gonna work in this place. But it's
gonna work once. And so anecdotally, it's gonna be an enormous success.
It's undeniably the strategy we need to use going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is just wildly disappointing. And I do think that the more that there's these equivocations and people don't just stand for what they, unabashedly articulate the policies they stand for. The thing about like all the candidates who ran with Medicare for All, I think it was in 2020, down ballot candidates, even in the races where it was like a Republican +5 district, the ones who ran with Medicare for All overwhelmingly won. And this thing of like backing away, even like, defund the police. There was one candidate who ran with defund the police as part of her campaign, and that was Cori Bush, and she won. So like all of these narratives of, going too far left is what's going to hurt you. It's just a lie. And they just keep waiting until they get their one piece of evidence, like in one race where it doesn't work. And so then they're going to, run on that.
Yeah, MSNBC is just there to lie to people that want to be progressive, that want to be left, that think they're on the right side of history. They're just there to lie to you and make you feel good about yourself. But I mean, the problem is that we go back to is that it makes people think that something is being done, like Democrats are fighting for you, which they obviously aren't. I mean, but it opens up the doors for all these people on the right, because people that are informed on the left know, oh, that's bullshit. Biden's not, doing all this stuff on marijuana. He's not,
socialist.
The more that everything they're saying is bullshit, the less you are as the base of the party to show up to vote in midterms, because midterms are the most engaged people only who show up to midterms. Everybody's not bombarded with like, oh, go vote in the national election for presidency.
Right.
It's more, hey, you got to on your own
enthusiasm. It's like a real demonstration of enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm of your own base wins the election.
Right.
So the right is radical as fuck. We're helping radicalize them by promoting the most extreme candidates. So that's turning out their own base even more.
Yep.
So we need to counter that with not these middling messages. We need to counter it with accomplishments, especially since we're in power. It's accomplishments. It's not stop the other guys.
Absolutely. Accomplishments and not apologizing for fighting for policies that a majority of the country, not just Democrats, want. I mean, that's what's so absurd. If you want to win, we know what people want in this country. They want a living wage. They want a Green New Deal. They actually do want COVID protections. They want Medicare for all. Like, we know
so if democracy is on the line, which we're always told it is, wouldn't Democrats all get behind Fetterman? Wouldn't the whole entire Democratic Party, wouldn't Nancy Pelosi be out there saying we got to get Fetterman elected? It's crucial to us to get Fetterman into office.
Nope. Nothing, nada. Instead, they're going to talk about, and I mean, it's so gross, but he just sat down for an interview. I don't know how many of you all got a chance to see with and NBC, and he needed closed captioning on his computer because he's having a little bit of a difficulty processing right now as he's recovering from his stroke. And there has been, I mean, to see people who call themselves liberals basically say that needing closed captioning is going to takes away his ability to govern, like we didn't have a president in a wheelchair or with like crippling back pain like JFK, right? Like they're going to make
like
a
our
thing
own
about
president
this.
can't even read a teleprompter.
I mean, right?
Walks
but they're
off
all,
stage,
yeah,
is lost.
yeah.
But Fetterman
They're
has got the disability.
yeah, I mean, it's really gross.
Terminal.
Anyway, so do you want to show somebody who like does kind of unapologetically stand up for what he believes? Even again, like
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tulsi. I thought you were going to show.
Oh, well, yeah.
She is such a true believer. Sorry, I don't even want to show the Tulsi clip. Let's just. I mean, she was. What was her line about white? Well,
that's what's so gross, right? She says she's leaving the Democratic Party because it's a warmongering party of elitists. Great. I agree. 100% they are. But then she peppers that whole speech with the wokeness party and, that they're fighting against white people and taking away white people's rights and religious freedom. I mean, it is every right-wing talking point. Yeah, exactly. It's always, they'd always rather have a Republican than a progressive. Always. Anyway, yeah. So
yeah. Let's not show Tulsi. Do you want to show who you were talking about showing?
Well, I thought Gary Chambers. I like that he's
Chambers?
just unapologetically, like we showed a few months ago. He had that campaign ad where he's down in Louisiana where he's running for Senate, but smoking a joint or blunt or whatever the kids say. Emoji thumbs up. Then he had another
Brandon.
one recently.
It's now a dank Brandon. Sorry,
he had another one recently talking about the Confederate flag. And then this is his latest one, which I think is great. I'm playing it now.
History repeats itself, especially when we lie about it.
And who's up next?
Me.
Come on up.
So it is wise for us to tell the truth.
My historical hero is Christopher Columbus.
Who do we allow our children to call their heroes?
In 1492, I set sail to find the continent of Asia, but instead I stumbled upon a new land, or so I thought.
If we tell them that a ruthless conqueror was a great explorer,
surprise! There are already people there. So I pretended to be their friend. Wink, wink.
That murderers were respected leaders,
I killed as many as I could, with diseases that spread throughout the land.
and that thieves and enslavers were savvy businessmen.
Some I kept as servants, others I sent to Europe as slaves. Well, at least the ones that survived.
Who does it benefit to hide the truth, if anyone at all?
In 200 years, they won't tell you that I slaughtered an entire race of people to steal their land.
But they will say they sat down and shared turkey.
They won't explain that I laid the groundwork for the American slave trade.
But they will force the descendants of slaves and slaveholders, indigenous people and immigrants, to call him an American hero and be happy about it.
Wonderful presentation.
History repeats itself, especially when we lie about it.
So it's wise for us to tell the truth.
Because if kids knew the truth about history, they'd all choose better heroes. I'm Gary Chambers, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate to help build a better future for our children and hope for tomorrow.
Let's go.
I love it.
Love it. Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's all this talk about CRT, which it has been conflated with just learning actual history, which is not what CRT is. But, you know, all the on the right wing who doesn't want to, you know, their kids growing up with any anti-white messages. And he is there unapologetically talking about the history of who Columbus really was and not saying we have to coddle white people feelings if we're telling history. We don't want to repeat history. So few Democrats are willing to speak honestly about any of it. So I appreciate that he is like that.
Absolutely. And, you know, Democrats are actively overfunding the police. It was like that. We don't have the study up right now, do we? But there was a recent study by I forget his name, Carrick.
Oh, Kirk,
Greek,
Alec.
Greek.
I'm going to call him Alec because
He's
I can't
Greek.
pronounce it.
Alec.
Yeah,
Alec.
yeah,
But it just showed how the narrative is framed. I mean, they had a recent study on asking, it was something like 60,000 people were asked about it, but how you feel about funding social services more and less to the police and blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. And one of the findings was that wives of cops or spouses of cops actually were more in favor of defunding the police than most
That's
other
right.
groups, which was
Yep.
really interesting. But the point is that actual study showed that people supported what defund the police stands for,
Yep.
but they're so sold on this narrative that you shouldn't defund the police because actual Democrats are putting out this idea that defunding hurts them.
Right.
So that message is sold to viewers, but people. So if you run on the actual issues and the Democratic Party cared about actually saving democracy, they would support all these popular issues.
I think once and I know we're all on the same page on this, but once you understand that they're working for the exact same people the Republicans are working for, they're just taking a slightly different costume, which is the one that pretends to care about minorities, but then doesn't do anything material to help anybody that they pretend to care about. And in fact, are constantly telling the people who show up for them, they're very base, that now is never the time, right? It's such hypocrisy and it's so dishonest. And once you see that, it's like you're not pro civil rights if you are constantly, as we have talked about before, holding people's civil rights over their head, like holding them hostage and saying, if you don't vote for us, then you're going to lose your constitutional rights. Like that shouldn't even be on the table.
No, it should be too extreme. And I mean, let's just run through a few things recently that are, they should be running on. Mortgage rates off the charts. No one's going to be able to afford a house. That might be a big issue that would get voters out if you did something about this. Instead, we're actively trying to put more people out of employment. That's the actual
raise those interest rates.
Fed's strategy is to raise unemployment. COVID obviously screwed up a lot of people, but private health insurance is getting most of their money now. The private health insurance is getting most of their money from the government. So why wouldn't you just have the fucking Medicare for all, which would actually do something about it?
Yep. I mean, to know that a third of the people who have died of COVID, it's being blamed on not having Medicare for all, not having universal health care, is so appalling that in this time we couldn't even manage to get healthcare for our people. It's really just astounding.
Yeah. But here's why it doesn't change, because the donors are the richest Americans and they're living 15 years longer than the poorest people. So the system's working great if you're rich in this country.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, I'm sure everybody saw that Ben Bernanke just got the Nobel Peace Prize or Nobel Prize in economics. 10 million people lost their homes under him. Unemployment more than doubled. Households lost over $14 trillion in wealth. Risky derivatives went up by $180 trillion, and the Fed gave Wall Street banks over $16 trillion in financial aid. And that's who's getting the Nobel Prize. So, I mean, it's like we're in an upside down world. Nothing even matters. If he gets a Nobel Prize for the way he handled the big bank bailout.
Yeah, nothing matters. It's just a revision of history. And nope, people never knew, if you watch CNN and MSNBC, you never know that Bernanke's a villain. And now he's getting a medal. So he's a great guy. So whatever he has to say next, we should follow that advice because he's got the Nobel Peace Prize.
I mean, like Obama getting it right after bombing hospitals. Yeah, sorry.
Right. No, I mean, absolutely. But I mean, the school, the universal free meal program expired. Why don't you run on? Well, first off, why did you let it expire?
We need 2 more Democrats.
Student debt, like like they pulled the private portion of paying off student loan debts, $10,000 of it. It's under lawsuit now. I mean, people, it may not ever happen. Like we're not going to know if it's going to happen because it's not going to happen before the midterms. So what does that tell you? Like, how does that really engage your base? Because they're not feeling it. Like if you actually put $10,000 in my bank account, it wouldn't change anything for me, but it would for some people. Yeah. But a portion of those people are going to say, did I get it or not? If they got it, that might be like, oh, okay, Democrats delivered.
Yeah. I mean, something, right? Instead, it's going to be filling out paperwork and, oh, did you get a Pell Grant? And like, it's going to be like any policy that is not universal is designed to fail. I mean, I think that's just 100%. The bottom line. As soon as it's means tested, as soon as you have to put in the work of filling out tons of paperwork and the bureaucracy, and, there's a reason that, well, we used to have good public schools, free public college, nobody is pushing to get rid of universal health care in the countries that have it, apart from the politicians who get rich off of, their donors and trying to privatize it, which is what's happening obviously in Britain right now. But yeah. Oh, and I did just want to say, Crystal, I saw this. Oops, I'm putting up the wrong one. March for Medicare for All. I did see that as collecting healthcare horror stories for their UN complaint. I just think, as we all say, fight on all fronts, do everything you can to bring attention to this, because it is a crime against humanity.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to end the segment and move on to something else. But
all right.
Hawks on the Democrats' house.
Hawks on the Democrats. Yeah, we got it. Let's get some joy in here. Let's get some shots. Let's do it.
Yeah, baby.
I think we should do a shot. And
I feel like I agree. I don't know what's happening with our wheel lately. We never land on it. It's time.
It's broken.
It's totally
we'll resume with Union Railroaded.
Okay. Yeah. I'm almost done with my second bottle of Absolute. Nice. I think they must have watered this sucker down. I don't know, because it's not. No way.
Your husband did that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like
somebody else
in there.
My kids have been in the liquor cabinet. Cheers, everybody.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is actually great piece of news, because after Biden, I think, lied and said that they had come to an agreement. Well, first he put together some committee to come up with something, and this was a few weeks ago, right? Maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago.
They more or less claimed that they had solved the strike.
Right.
They resolved it. Biden
right. Well, the first agreement that he put together was soundly rejected, right? Because it was just a little bit of a pay raise, but like 1 sick day or something. Then a couple weeks ago, he announced, without talking to workers, like in all of these reports, apart from like Jordan Sheridan and a couple other independent news outlets, none of the mainstream media talks to the workers. They talk to the CEOs, they talk to Wall Street bankers, they talk to, but they never talk to workers and find out what their issues are. And so when Biden just came out and announced, the crisis averted, strikes averted, we're not going to shut it down, without talking to the workers, without hearing from the workers. And I was actually really worried that the union leaders were going to tamp down the unrest from the workers, but it sounds like the workers are pushing through.
Some of them tried.
Yeah.
Some of them tried, but some of these union leaders they're saying fuck this, because it was a shitty deal. So they're not playing along with it. And let's talk about a big part of why, like all these why the Democrats are fighting against unions, which is what they really are doing. Because a new study shows that a union worker over their career makes $1.3 million over a non-union worker.
If unions weren't powerful for the workers, the CEOs wouldn't be fighting so hard against them, right?
100%. So here's an example of one of the good ones.
Jonah Furman, a great reporter.
And I would say that almost all unions are good except for police unions, but sometimes the union leadership has too much power and they're cozy with the establishment, and that's kind of what we run into with some of this railroad strike. But Reese Murtaugh, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, out of Machinist Lodge 696, sent a scathing letter. But basically, it was like, "Hey, how could you guys have why you guys are speaking for us, but you didn't speak to us? Like, we didn't agree with this. This disregard for the members' vote has taken away all credibility."
Yeah, I mean, it's really great to see that we saw it in Nevada with Bernie and the restaurant workers, right? I think where the union leaders were pushing their workers to not vote for Bernie because of his stance on Medicare for all, and they said, "Oh, that's going to hurt negotiations," which is such a dishonest lie. Like, it actually
Harry Reid in Nevada.
Yeah,
old corporate mob politics, mob level.
But the union leaders were in the same camp with Harry Reid, but then the workers came out and went against their boss's suggestion, and they voted, very heavily for Bernie. So unfortunately, there is that tension between the union bosses and the workers. A majority of almost 12,000 unionized railroad workers voted to reject a tentative labor agreement brokered in part last month by President Biden, the first dismissal by members of a dozen labor groups that must accept the deal or risk a strike. And I think that even just one of those groups can reject it and it doesn't go through. So, and there's been a few this week, but I think they only need one group to reject it. So we might have a huge general strike, bring this country to its knees.
Yeah. And I think what people don't realize with the general strike is it can be a targeted general strike, and really, like, literally the railroad strike could take up the causes of a lot of us in other industries. And there's a trickle down effect to us. I hate to trickle down. I just trickle down. But look at all the actions. I mean, Starbucks is retaliating against all these union supporters. Openly telling people to go punish them, go through her files. I'm sure there's something in there we can use against her. Amazon there was a fire last week, and there'd been 3, which I'm not going to lie is a little suspicious.
And it's always like right before they're about to have a union vote too, it seems. I think at least for 2 of them, I know that's true.
Right. So, and Starbucks suspended, I thought they fired, but maybe this is just, I'm not sure about this article, but anyway, they retaliated against a lot of workers who, there were like at least 100 workers that refused to work the night of one of these fires.
Amazon, you said Starbucks at Amazon.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Amazon. They refused to work that night and were suspended, fired. I don't know. Who knows what.
I mean, it was not safe to go back in there. The fire had just happened. The smoke. I mean, what a few years for people's lungs, right? Like COVID, and then all the tear gas at the BLM protest marches, and now, Amazon lighting its warehouses on fire to prevent people. Now that's my allegation, to prevent their workers from voting for a union.
Just got our video kicked off of YouTube.
I know. We just got 2 reinstated. I
phrase search
a zero-sum game.
The bots are on it.
Yeah.
But they really don't want us. The press is not covering this stuff. So, I mean, it's really imperative that anyone on the left, like, spread this to people, because the last thing that MSNBC is ever going to say is, "Oh, unions won another one," or that little rally worked. I mean, they're UHL workers, DHL, delivery drivers recently were violently arrested. There's a video that went with it, but it's kind of too long and convoluted. But basically,
they were striking.
Police came in and beat up all these strikers. And here's the thing. They've been on strike since June, and this is not reported on. And this violence was not reported on at all. Like, no one's shown the videos of this stuff.
Yeah, but it is really encouraging that, and I will say, listen, I cannot stand Joe Biden. I really despise him, truly. But the fact that he has Marty Walsh in there as the labor secretary is better than whoever. I mean, Hillary wanted Howard Schultz. Do you remember that? So all the stuff that we're reading about Howard Schultz and Starbucks, being union busters and firing their employees who want to unionize. That was her pick for labor secretary. She was right about everything.
I literally, before I logged onto the show, somebody else tweeted she was right about everything, wasn't she? And I saw it and I'm like, oh, I got to just drop that from my memory bank. And you brought me back.
Yeah, that could have been our labor secretary, Howard Schultz. All right. Anyway, so that's all good news. That actually is really good news. And it seems like they are not allowing their voices to be sublimated. So solidarity always with all of you. Thank you for your hard
100%.
work.
I mean, the good news is that despite the press not covering this stuff, that even if it's not getting covered, the unions are still winning. Like their suppression tactics haven't worked. But imagine if we get more coverage out about this, the trickle down effect to other unions and other strikes. So we need to spread the word and get people behind this, because it's more important to be behind the union strikes than it is electoral politics to me.
I think so too. It's the only thing that's actually going to agitate for change on any substantial level. All right. I think we should spin, right? Do we have any other? Let's do it.
Oh, I didn't take a shot off, but that's all right. We shouldn't.
All right, let's see if we actually land on one legitimately.
Yeah, baby.
There we go.
What are the chances? we have 25 shots on the wheel and one subject wedge. Can't believe we actually landed on a shot. Yay.
I'm here. I'm just in my socialist small apartment grabbing a beer from my fridge. So.
Good for you. You're no class traitor.
Absolutely not. So, but we have a shot to do. Let's try.
Yeah. You got it? Oh, I'm waiting.
Oh, you're ready for me? God, I'm so
I know. I poured it fast. I was like, you got to get there. Ready?
To the union strikers. Cheers.
Union strikers, solidarity. Okay. All right. Cheers, everybody. Let's spin that wheel.
Yeah, baby.
A little harsh.
Dank Brandon legalizing pot, getting those federal prisoners out of jail. I think hero for 6,500 people, which of course is huge for those 6,500 people, but hardly a drop in the bucket for a country of, what are we, 238 million or something?
Well, and the critical piece to it is that it's federal marijuana arrests, records. They're not expunging the records, but they are pardoned. And it's only for, what was it, singular marijuana? So simple marijuana conviction. So if you had like any aggravated anything to go with your marijuana, you're not going to get out. But all these people are already out of prison. So it affected 6,500 people. Resumes, I guess, that you don't have to check the box saying you were arrested. But that's not what he ran on at all. Like it's miles away from like celebrating that marijuana is legal in the country, that people are out of prison because of marijuana erections. Marijuana erections. If you have a marijuana erection,
that didn't stop
the doctor.
The propagandists from getting out all the memes. Dank Brandon, no more malarkey. He's coming at you with his eye lasers and all that bullshit. Meanwhile, under Biden, cannabis arrests have increased 25% since Biden's taken office. 25%. I mean, imagine what?
Arrests, like the arrests are up 25% since he's taken office. Meanwhile, marijuana is literally legal in all these states. How many states have legalized marijuana in the last 3-4 years? I mean, it's crazy that arrests have gone up. His own administration fired his own fucking staffers from the White House.
Yeah, look at this one, Anya Lair. Wait, so do I get my job back? Fired for just after they said that they weren't going to penalize people. So a lot of the staffers filled out the questions honestly. Note to self, don't ever do that. And then we're fired.
Yeah, or nothing could happen. Just tell the truth and you'll be all right.
And that wasn't for being arrested. That was for having used pot,
Having
right? That was
self-admitted to using marijuana, and he fired them.
Yeah.
Come on.
Crazy.
What is this?
So let's see. Yeah, and here's the. I mean, that's not only is
Propagandist
he dark
raging,
Brandon, but the power of his anti-charisma is now they're
Holy
spinning other
fuck.
tales as he
That is
because
such an Onion article. The
I mean,
power of having no personality. The power.
This is the reality of who he is.
Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America. Made in America.
2 words. Let
Can
me
you
start
imagine
off with 2
cheering that? Like the year the cheer? That had to be a track, an audio track or something.
Just on a sound stage. And sometimes I feel bad because the clips that we pull, almost always they're like from the RNC and Republican bullshit that I hate anyway. And the truth is, if he were actually fighting for stuff and fell up or down the steps on the way to Air Force One or wandered off stage or whatever, and I've said a lot of times, I would vote for Bernie in a coffin before I would vote for Biden, right? Like, I mean, there are policies that really matter to me. I don't care so much about if somebody trips up his words, but he is such a disaster on every level that he's just, it's just ripe, low-hanging fruit for me.
It is, which brings up the Brandon song. Should we play this Brandon song?
This is the Brandon song.
Did we show this before? I feel like we
No, this is a new one. Let's do it.
Oh, I thought this was the one I saw. All right, let's do it.
Going to my mind's going blank now. What's happening? What I can't remember. I'm gonna lose track. My mind's going blank now. What are you talking about? What the hell's going on here? Where the hell are we? My mind's going blank now. I can't remember. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What am I doing here? My mind's going blank now. Where am I headed? I keep forgetting I'm president. Where am I? No idea. Last night on the television, I was on a telephone rapidly rising and with I don't know. COVID has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's lives reflected in the NHEI. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him in. We're going to seize the ill-begotten gains of Putin's autocracy. Yeah. NATO's purpose is to defend against aggression. Let me make that near and dear to you that you like to be able to. Anyway, my mind's going blank now. What's happening? What I can't remember. I'm gonna lose track. My mind's going blank now. What are you talking about? What the hell's going on here? Where the hell are we? My mind's going blank now. I can't remember. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What am I doing here? My mind's going blank now. Where am I headed? I keep forgetting I'm president. Where am I? No idea. I don't think as the idea that the political coverage. I want to thank and recognize Dr. John Kingersong. Good song. I can't get this to function at all. My mind's going blank now. What's happening? What I can't remember. I'm gonna lose track. My mind's going blank now. What are you talking about? What the hell's going on here? Where the hell are we? My mind's going blank now. I can't remember. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. What am I doing here? My mind's going blank now. Where am I headed? I keep forgetting I'm president. Where am I? No idea.
All right. I kind of feel like an asshole now. That's a little bit of like elder abuse. I'm sorry. I just really loathe him so much.
Well,
he doesn't deserve to be president. He is not the right person. He's created most of the problems that our country is facing right now over the span of his 40-year career. So I'm angry, but that feels a little like mean-spirited to me now that I see it in front of other
I would
people.
never have condoned that if I'd watched it before.
And I don't know who to give credit for that or who put that together, but it just kind of
the overriding point though is that he is behind all the policies. They're telling you need 2 more people to overturn.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
You know, the marijuana policies, the 3-strike rules, the crime bill. It's all Joe Biden. Like all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, Trump used to do this thing where he would like take us to the edge of disaster and then pull it back a little bit and congratulate himself for doing that, right? Like when they assassinated the Iranian general, and like that escalated tensions, and this is the whole structure of the Biden regime. I'm going to start calling it the Biden regime because they do that when they're talking about like it's the Putin regime, but the Zelensky administration, right? Like they're keywords that they use for your adversaries and for your friends.
You will never see mainstream media write an article about the war and not say Putin's war.
Right. Unprovoked. It's unprovoked war.
And obviously he's an aggressor and wrong, but anyway, go on.
Yeah. I
always feel like I have to add the asterisk, but let's just forget.
Why are you helping Trump?
Why? Look at all those shots.
Spin the wheel. Let's do it.
I just need to find the button. There it is.
Yeah, baby.
All right. And I just saw Macarius, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Biden was installed as the Democratic candidate, so regime isn't inappropriate. I totally agree. Thank you. Thank you for making me feel better about myself for showing some shitty video, which makes me laugh anyway. Okay. And which, by the way, everybody was very honest about at the beginning of the primaries, as we remember, right? Like they talked about the fact that mentally he was a different man. Anyway,
before he was the last option left with Democrats, they leaked all kinds of stuff because he did so badly. He did so poorly in the beginning of his campaign that their own credibility, they had to say, they had to report on how badly he was doing and how, remember his sexual assault stuff was out there in the open in the beginning. And then, but then meanwhile, they never covered Tara Reid at all.
Yeah. That's so disgusting. All right, shots and good.
Happy,
glad I did.
Happy little segment.
Happy hour. Oh my God, that's a lot.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Our favorite topic. COVID's over.
Because we're a bunch of pussies scared of COVID still.
I know somebody hopped into our show last week just to write some crappy comment like, "Oh, you've followed all the not propaganda, but whatever." Anyway, that's what our country looks like now. But also just know that the CDC announced it will no longer provide daily updates on COVID cases and deaths, and instead will do it weekly. Also, we're hearing that the director of the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation estimates that only 4 to 5% of infections are being reported. So we really have no idea. You have the tools and everyone should take care of himself, and then they don't give you the tools.
Yeah. So obviously we should stop reporting on it daily. Meanwhile, I mean, like the daily death total with Trump was like, that was the #1 caption on the news every night, like daily death count. Remember that?
Yep. It was a ticker at the bottom. Yeah. Hospitals in Ontario are overrun with COVID cases again. Sorry.
Yeah. So this week, a big report came out. Oh, this is the 63. See this, my number earlier?
Yeah.
I said 63,000 people. Forget I said that. That was all made up. Entirely made up. Because the 63 from this.
Wait, I don't even know what you're talking about. I wasn't listening. I tuned you out. No, what?
At some point I was talking about some number and I was like, 63,000 people. But it was
no, we were talking about the 6,500 people who were being helped by Biden's
no, never mind. But I brought
really wasn't sorry.
There was some study I reported I was bringing up earlier. It was a poll and I was like, it's 63,000 people they polled.
Okay.
And that was wrong. It was like 8 people. Never take us seriously.
Yeah, please.
But anyway,
Okay,
the bottom line of the report, it's a huge report with a lot of people, and they're showing that, the obvious thing, that 5 days was never the right amount to quarantine after COVID. You can't just isolate for 5 days and not be cured. You need to test your way out of COVID and prove you're you're not transmitting the virus.
Right.
All the studies say you should be really 10 days post testing.
Past guidance saying people could leave isolation after 5 days may be the single biggest controllable contributor to continued COVID spread. I mean, I'd argue that also not masking.
Masks.
If CDC had recommended tests to leave and the administration had provided those tests, which we're now getting rid of, and nobody can even get their hands on tests anymore for free, many fewer infectious people would likely be out. Of course, Jerome Adams was the former guy, Trump's person, but it does not take away from what he's saying there, which is true. And of course, that was because of Delta CEO putting a lot of pressure on the administration to reduce the number of days that you had to quarantine after testing positive.
Capitalism, period, is running our country. It's not, nobody has any interest of the public. It's all about stocks, and the airlines have power.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing right now, everything that happens in Europe ends up over here.
Like 2 or 3 weeks later. Yeah.
That's how it's always been. So right now in Germany, for example, they're seeing the fastest spike they've seen in a year right now. So this chart doesn't look that bad. It looks like, oh, we're less, if you look at the right, they're way less than their peak. But the point is, from the bottom of that curve, the last curve, to the top is the sharpest response they've seen. So it's going up it's
spiking faster than it normally is.
Spiking incredibly fast. And we are headed into winter. We're not in winter yet. So when winter hits us here, with our laissez-faire attitude with kids in school, and kids are coming home and transmitting COVID like absolute fucking crazy. If you look at us, here's us in the world. We're leading in COVID deaths. So this spike that's coming is going to be fucking bad.
Yeah.
And this latest variant is coming over. It has a name. It's okay. So they finally named it, and it's an
Eterna. I'm going to call it
unmemorable
Eterna.
name.
Like Eterna. Like we're eternally going to be plagued by this virus.
So I read this article, and basically they think this one's going to take over next, COVID BA 4.6, and it's defeating the tools that we have to fight COVID, more or less. So that's
which we are defeating ourselves on the tools that we already had, right? Because anybody who's not insured doesn't get to test or treat for free anymore. We don't have as many at-home rapid tests anymore. We are taking away the transmission map from the CDC. So all of the tools, we haven't purified the air in most schools or public buildings. No mask mandate, no vaccine mandate. Just recently, there was a study that showed that in places where they encourage masking, there is a higher percentage of people who boost and vaccinate and boost, because when you tell people the virus is over, the pandemic's over,
that's the whole thing.
They don't think they need to protect themselves anymore.
Yeah. When you see things as left and right, good guys, Democrats, bad guys, Republicans, if you're a center seat Democrat, you hear your good guy team saying the pandemic's over. It's human nature to just fall in line. I mean, I don't see, like, I've always been a free thinker. I'm researching. Like, if something's going to affect my life, I'm going to research it. I'm going to read these studies, but a lot of people just don't think like that. A lot of people don't have the liberty and the time to keep reading articles, and, they have to work. They have to make the rent. Their kids have to go to school. What are they going to do? So at some point, people just want to just have collective brainwashing.
But the thing that I think, but again, it's like another, tail wagging the dog, where one study after another, or poll after another, showed that a majority of the people in the country, even in the reddest states that liberals like to be like, go die, said, that they were in favor of mask mandates when there were spikes in COVID and other protections. And instead, we got this constant drumbeat and a manufactured narrative that people are just over it. and COVID's over and we have the tools and it's individual responsibility. And I think if you instead foster an idea that we're in this together, it's public health, look out for your neighbors. This project of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and individualism, rugged individualism, it's bipartisan and it's all to serve capital, right? So, but I do think that people could be pushed the other way, but there's just no intention by the Biden regime to do that.
They have to be misinformed intentionally to not take your own threats, your own personal threats seriously. You have to be propagandized to not I feel like if people know what I know, what you know, if they actually knew that stuff, they would take their own safety more seriously, especially the safety of their kids. It's one thing your personal risk, but the idea is that they've sold the world on this idea that long COVID is not even a thing.
Yep. And that we're all going to get it anyway.
Yeah. So I just wanted to show.
But I just want to say that it turns out that not only the US, but most other Western countries were influenced heavily by McKinsey, Mayor Pete's old place, on COVID management and basically how to get people back to work. So this has been a project that has been sort of orchestrated by just the biggest ghouls in the world to get everybody back to work.
Yeah. If you think of just McKinsey equals capitalism, right? So they are a firm whose whole goal is
bread fixing.
They're just an evil group out. These evil groups exist to promote evil things that benefit industries that hire them to promote those things. And that's McKinsey. And so McKinsey is out there spreading, affecting our politicians on their COVID policy, which why are they doing it? Capitalism. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts that I thought were relevant that I found from Twitter. First guy, my library science conference is making me sign a waiver barring my family from suing them if I die of COVID because I went to their event.
Jesus
2022
Christ.
is wild. Bogwitch, if you thought you had a 1 in 5 chance of winning a lottery jackpot, you'd play all the time, right? That's so weird because those are basically the CDC's estimates of developing long COVID. 1 in 5. And long COVID, I mean, people are dying. So we'll put the list up in a second. But Turn says they asked us to make personal decisions about risk based on the data, then lied about the risk and removed the data.
Oh, yeah.
That is so accurate right there. And Kit Yates, is it normal to have 4 infection waves a year for a seasonal endemic virus? No, it is not.
Yep. I mean, and when Trump said it's like the flu, everybody appropriately lambasted him on the left, titular left. But now that's what we're all supposed to think because we've got Biden in charge and he basically just made us, swallow it down a little easier. Not us, but the country, right? I mean, he's furthering every single part of Trump's approach to this virus.
And there's no coming back from what's happening now because we're not changing policy. So right now, K through 12 has lost 21,000 workers in September. So last month alone, 21,000 K through 12 education people left. And there are 309,000 fewer teachers and support staff than pre-pandemic.
I mean, that's horrifying.
And so you're looking at those are the teachers. And then the other industry massively affected is healthcare workers. If we don't get out of these curves, how do we change this? We can't, there's nothing that's going to change this anytime soon unless the pandemic magically morphs into some sort of, this next variant is taken over and we're all fine from it, it turns out. But that's not what's happening.
I mean, scientifically, I haven't seen a single doctor or scientist argue that that's the trajectory we should be expecting. If it happens, I will be so grateful because this sucks. Right. I mean, it is really hard to keep working towards something and protecting yourself when the whole country and most of the, Western world is conspiring to force everybody just to get on with it and, be disabled or die.
And I think what really bugs me is that, okay, there are the path out of this is some of the ways, some of the research that's coming up, the nasal vaccines,
right?
There are treatments that could work, but we're putting less energy into those because it's so important for us to pretend this thing is over. So there's less energy, less money, less everything into the actual things that could get us out of this.
Listen, and don't defund the police, defund the science. And we're defunding the science. And Mary, I just saw like your hospital stopped mask mandates 2 weeks ago in a hospital. That's insanity.
No, I mean, there are lots of anecdotal reports of people are going in to get vaccines by people without masks, and and it's at like Walgreens or something, and like the person giving them the shot isn't masked, and you're in the same line as the person who's there to get a COVID treatment.
Yeah. I mean, none of the pharmacists at my pharmacy wear masks, or if every once in a while I'll see somebody wearing a mask and it's a surgical mask, which like we knew since like late 2020 that wasn't appropriate.
It's amazing. All right. We have one more category. Should we get to it?
All right, let's do it. Yeah.
We should spin the wheel though, just to see, right? We can't just
get just in case we get a shot.
Do one shot.
What? That's crazy town.
What are the odds?
I cannot believe it. I can't believe it. Thank goodness. Oh, no wonder I go through these bottles so fast. Oh. Cheers, everybody.
We need to find a wheel that doesn't have these 1980s graphics on it. Is that possible? Someone DM us a way to, we need to reach out. We need to incorporate all the brilliant leftists that can handle this stuff.
I know, because I'm just going to be thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Here.
All right. So now we're going to spin the wheel. Jesus.
Yeah, baby.
All right.
I mean, the push towards just a little bit of nuclear is so insane. Could a small nuclear war reverse global warming? That's HuffPost. Like, what the hell? And then we've got all these opinion pieces. Biden thinks non-nuclear threats will stop Putin. His military doesn't. The United States needs to talk the nuclear talk and not be held back by the fear of having to walk the walk. I mean, they are pushing for a nuclear conflict. It would wipe out 63% of the world's population.
Whoa, 37% of the population would survive. That's the important thing.
Get those bunkers out, billionaires. Who's gonna make your dinner in your billionaire bunker? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, what the public wants and what we're told the public wants are not the same thing.
Right.
We're told that the public supports this war at all costs because democracy is so important. And that's why you see all these ridiculous accounts on Twitter with John 07765,
right.
who has a strong opinion about how, he's a Bernie guy, but, you're a
and if you push for peace, you're just Putin's puppet.
Yeah, Putin puppet. Yeah. Here's a good example of it, because so I actually pulled this to point out something going on, and it's Kiev Independent. So this is propaganda, but it's Reuters saying most Americans.
They say it's Reuters, but when we went and did some research, they could not point to the actual poll. And in fact, the polls that have been published where they do link to the actual raw numbers do not back this up. So to me, this feels like, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but right now the Kiev Independent, which is a propaganda arm of the Ukrainian government, Ukrainian regime, is citing something that I have not been able to find exists. This poll.
Well, I mean, anecdotally, that's what the poll said.
It's going to be a split ticket, a little nuclear war, and just no peace at all.
Little nuclear war as a treat.
which is, I mean, honestly, the fact that they're getting people, it's just like when they got people with the, with the Ukrainian flags and their handles to publicly push for a no-fly zone, not realizing what that meant. I mean, the truth is, at some point, whenever it is, in a month, in a year, in 10 years, in 100 years, at some point, wars end. And it's how many people do you want to die before then? What are the compromises? But at some point, there will be compromises. There will be negotiations. There will be people who are unhappy with the exact results. But how much death and destruction happens as we move towards that?
Well, it's like what we've said from the beginning. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but like the better Ukraine does. So Ukraine blew up a bridge, terrorist bomber. I mean, maybe it wasn't Ukraine, whatever. So what happens? They immediately get shelled by long range missiles and,
destroy like
this is what we've always said. What anyone who's really paying attention to any of this stuff has always known, that the better Ukraine does on the ground, for they can push back local Russians in tanks all day, but Russia can just then go bing, boom, bomb.
Yeah. Indiscriminately just destroy your whole. Yeah.
And that's what's happening. And that does not mean that I side with Russia on this. It just means that's the reality of what warfare means in that region. So the only outcome is really, I mean, the only anti-imperialist position is, well, we don't belong in that mix. I mean, there's so many layers with NATO or whatever, but you can't say that we're going to back them. They're going to win this war, because they're not going to win this war. Winning this war means that the country could be down to 10,000 people live in the country, but they win the war because they hold the region. But that doesn't do anything for anyone living there.
No, it's horrible. And this whole idea, like, I mean, just recently, Zelensky, I mean, of course, this is a regime change war, which Biden announced several months ago, even as Zelensky and Putin were, with the help of Turkey, were sort of coming to some peace accords. And Biden said, no, it's got to be a regime change. This is a regime change. We can't negotiate with Putin. And now Zelensky is saying the same thing. But like, who do you think is going to replace Putin? Like, who do they think is going to replace him? Do they think it's going to be some peace-loving, I mean, like.
And it's crazy. You're not going to replace Putin. You're going to maybe assassinate him or something like that. But you can't. You're not going to. He has too much power. I mean, his elections are fixed over there. It's not bullshit that they're. But how are you going to replace it? You're not going to. It's not going to happen. You're not going to regime change out Putin.
No, like and the opposition that he listens to are the people who are even more hawkish. And in fact, I think there was a new general he put in charge after the bridge to Crimea was blown up. And that's when, right around that time. And then that's when they started launching these missiles and just destroying, civilian areas in Kiev. I mean, it's horrific.
Yeah. Let's show the video. We have several, but let's show the
Vijay Prashad. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So he just wrote a book with Noam Chomsky and talking about the push for peace.
And we had
sorry.
I was just going to say, we had a Noam clip to back this up too, but it was kind of boring because Noam's kind of, he's getting old. I'm sorry. I said it, not
I did not say it. Do not cancel me. All right.
Last year, the calculation was that the world's powers spend $2 trillion, that's with a T, on weapons. The United States by itself spends nearly $1 trillion. If you add the money in the Department of Energy budget for nuclear weapons and so on, $1 trillion, $2 trillion globally. Meanwhile, the total budget for the United Nations is $3 billion. That's with a B. We spend trillions of dollars on weapons and only low billions on peace building. It's extraordinary. I mean, I want more people to know about these numbers. There's a habit of war making. Look, you can't take out Ukraine, lift it out of the earth and put it in Iowa. Ukraine is going to have to live next to Russia. It's going to have to live there. That's where it is. The Ukrainians and the Russians have to come to some kind of agreement. Ukraine has to live next to Russia. But the United States saw Ukraine as a kind of loose nail under which they placed their weapons. billions of dollars of weapons, much more than the annual budget of the United Nations, in order to egg Russia on. In April of this year, they had an interim agreement which looked a lot like Minsk II, but the West said no. The point, as U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said, is to weaken Russia. You see, the question isn't Ukraine and Russia by itself. It's also the United States and Russia. So there's got to be pressure on the Biden administration, not only to back off and allow Zelensky and Putin to talk, to allow them to have some kind of peace agreement that's, with dignity for all sides, but also the United States needs to go back to the table with the Russians and talk to them. If the United States can talk to the Saudis, in fact, pal up with the Saudis, why can't they talk to the Russians? It's ridiculous to say, the Russians are not going to, they're not a good partner, they're not going to live on agreements and so on. Look who's talking.
Look who's talking. He's great. And that is true. And, I did just see that the former Joint Chief of Staff, Mike Mullen, and he was, I think, under both George W. and Obama, is calling on Biden to push for some negotiations, because I think, it just keeps escalating to a point where we're talking about just a little bit of nuclear war. There is no little bit of nuclear war.
I mean, the topic is, the wheel segment was called Armageddon because Biden used the word Armageddon. Like
in a private talk, like not even publicly. Where's our fireside chat? Our leader.
Yeah. So I think to counter that, I think we should show the Claire Daly's, because she kind of sums up how we wish our politicians sounded like.
The war in Ukraine is quickly escalating into a wider horror, and from what I can see, practically nobody in this chamber is doing anything to prevent it. In fact, most people seem to get off on the fact that it's escalating. And at this precise moment, of course, as usual, the voices challenging the rush to war are attacked and silenced, smeared as traitors, cronies, Putin puppets, Kremlin stooges, Russian ages. Frankly, it's pathetic. And I don't make the comparison lightly, but the crudeness and cynicism of these slurs coming from mainstream EU parties might as well have been written by Hermann Göring, who infamously said that even though people never want war, they can be brought to war with threats and smears. He said, all you have to do, tell them they're being attacked, denounce the pacifists for lack of patriotism and exposing their country to danger. It works the same every way. Where he led, you are following. This House should be ashamed of this debate. Words are being twisted, meaning subverted, and the truth turned on its head. Opposing the horrible madness of war is not anti-European. It's not anti-Ukrainian. It's not pro-Russian. It's common sense. The working class of Europe have nothing to gain from this war and everything to lose. And I find it laughable that those calling for arms to Ukraine never call for arms for the people of Palestine or for the people of Yemen. Unlike you, I oppose all war. I want it stopped. I make no apology for that, and I'm not going to be scapegoated and labelled for it either.
God, I love her. Inject her into my veins. She's so great. Why don't we have that in this country? Nobody, none of our leaders talks that way.
I mean, Palestine, why aren't these same people held to account immediately by the press for the exact same conditions over in Palestine? Like, this is really about regime change and imperialism. What the fuck? It's pretty obvious connection to draw there.
Yeah. And again, like every other issue we ever talk about, it's all intertwined, and the money we spend there is money that we're not spending here on our infrastructure, on our water, on our air, on our schools. And I mean, I know like MMT and we always have money for war, but it's priorities, right? So like, I don't want this war, but like we could also be spending the money on Medicare for all and schools. But it's just very clear where the priorities lie for all of our politicians, I think almost everybody voted for the increased, military spending, more money packages to Ukraine. And it's never, Jake Tapper is never there asking, how are we going to pay for it, right? He only does that when Bernie talks about Medicare for all or Green New
how
Deal.
much,
and they
how much money have we given Ukraine? Like, let's be real about this.
Yeah. I mean, tens of billions of dollars.
An
And it's
insane
not even
amount.
going to them. It's going to the military industrial complex almost entirely, except for then we also were like padding some of their retirement funds. And then, Zelensky just canceled basically all of the ability for labor to unionize, because what's going to happen is businesses are going to come in from the West and just like he's going to sell that whole country off for parts. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit about how we're funding them too, because like, okay, people will say like, oh, well, a lot of that funding was just to replace our stores of weapons that we gave them. Well, it's the military industrial complex benefiting top to bottom. Like, okay, we're going to give them our old weapons and then we're going to find new ones. It's just a lot of bullshit. I want to show the short clip of our hero, literal hero, James Carville.
Election. I mean, I think they see Joe Biden is weak, and I think this issue has been plaguing him. I know they were touting it.
Well, this is, who doesn't think that Joe Biden is weak? Vladimir Putin, the Republican hero of the United States. The man that the Republican Party worships is getting the crap kicked out of him right now with U.S. support and a Joe Biden-led coalition. If they want to love the Saudis, that's their business, all right? The United States is making a successful stand, and in my opinion, is the most successful foreign policy initiative since World War II. And do I...
Ugh, so gross. What an infantile level of discussion. He's kicking
to remind
Putin's
people,
ass.
Yeah. How is Putin getting his ass kicked? This is what people don't like. People who watch this shit don't understand that Russia's doing great economically. Like this whole attack on the ruble failed miserably. They are not feeling, and even the people there are not feeling the pain from this war, like from sanctions. They're not feeling it.
Yeah, and I do think it's important. This is, when Biden says the whole world is with us, this is a picture of who is with us. Those countries in blue, which is the US, Canada, Europe, and oh God, forgive me, is that Australia? But I mean, there's a lot of countries there. The global South is not with us. And even now, Germany, first of all, blowing up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline is going to have severe and devastating effects on Europe.
On the climate. Yeah. I mean, like,
well, on the climate, 100%. But even just like more immediately, I mean, yes, what is being done to the climate with the release of the gases from that is horrifying. Yeah.
But all this puts us so now, like, the Saudis are good and Russia is bad. I mean, Russia is bad in lots of ways, but like the Saudis are not good. Never been good.
Yeah, no, it's
we kind of have to wrap up the show, but go say your point, and then I'll go to my wrap up kind of spiel.
Oh, I can't believe you're going to be
I don't have a spiel.
The wrap up guy. I like it.
I was going to pivot to the video that I had, but let's. Yeah,
which video?
The drones. I love the drones.
Oh yeah, no, okay. Let's do that. But I think you should do that, and then we should wrap up after that, because that's even more horrifying. And then we should do something nice so that everybody doesn't leave in a sad place.
Okay, so
this is our future.
This is our future. Don't relax, guys. We got this. This is no big deal.
That's not Starship Troopers. That's an actual footage of what is in China.
It's China. So I mean, I'm communist friendly. I would call myself a socialist more than a communist, but China's not communist anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But
yeah,
this is China. Literally, that's a drone dropping off a robo-dog that's armed. So I think we should all worry a little bit about where all of our leaders are taking us at this point in time.
I think I'm just going to have one last shot.
You're just going to shots? It's just shots.
One more day. That's crazy.
That wasn't the happy positive we were going to end on.
That's not happy positive. I think it's super important that we talk about this, and people we really need a Claire Daly or a few. Give me two more Democrats in our country. I mean, we got nobody speaking out that way in the U.S. to combat the crazy propaganda that's pushing us towards World War III and Armageddon.
It's amazing that out of all the squad folks that I supported 100% up and down, there isn't one who's willing to just balls to the wall like Claire Daly.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, she's going to win a re-election. Anyone that actually did that they're going to win a re-election no matter what's put against them. If you're an honest to balls to the wall truth talker. So can we get one? I mean, it would only take one to make the whole group to have a little more.
Open up that space, right? Yeah, pave the way.
But you would trust the whole group more. The whole group could say, "Oh, she's speaking for us." We can't really do it or whatever. Can somebody just prove there's some merit to any electoral politics?
This is our challenge. It's the challenge. It's the Punch Up Pod challenge. We need somebody. We need the peace party. Where's the party of peace? All right. It's 6:30. I gotta go. I'm about to get canceled, but I gotta go root on my Dodgers.
Oh, I forgot we had. I don't care about your Dodgers.
I know.
Baseball. I don't give a shit about baseball. Sorry, but if you care about it, I care about it.
Thank you.
But
I feel it. I felt that from you. I feel it. Yeah.
If you don't want the world to end.
Yeah.
And this people are torn on this. There are a lot of people who have been rooting for the asteroid to take out the world. Been people rooting for the asteroid, but NASA redirected an asteroid, proving
look at that
they might be able to save us from an asteroid. So, I mean, that's good. Unless
if only that were the biggest problem is the asteroid. I feel like we've got so much bigger problems than asteroids right now.
But I feel like our politics are our system is such bullshit that a parliamentarian could overrule destroying it would take votes to get the asteroid redirected, and they'd be like, parliamentarian says it's against the norms and we can't blow up the asteroid.
What's the cost benefit analysis? Could we make some money if selling off pieces of the asteroid?
Yeah, or somehow it's going to affect the railroad industry, or I don't know. It's going to affect some industry is going to say, no, we can't blow up the asteroid.
It's just the flu. Get back to work. You're fine.
Yes.
What's wrong? You got two legs. You're missing one. You get back to work. Hey everybody, you guys are awesome. Thank you for hanging out with us every week. We love it. It's a real highlight of the week, especially when there's so much stuff going on that's sort of depressing. So thank you. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Keep punching up. Cheers.
Bye.